This video may be controversial to some, but it really shouldn't be. Like it or not, the devil has a long history in animation, going back almost 100 years to at least the 1920s, and has appeared in different forms in different cartoons, from Disney to Looney Tunes to Tom and Jerry. This video in no way intends to trivialize or glorify Satan, but only to chronicle the earliest known appearances of a very common stock character, depicted in cartoons as the ruler of the underworld, the epitome of evil, or even as a comic relief. If we were to review each and every appearance of the devil throughout the history of cartoons and animation, we'd be here until Doomsday. So instead, we're going to Holland back to find the earliest appearances of Satan in kids' cartoons. Records tell of a Felix the Cat cartoon released on February 21, 1926, named Felix Fans the Flames, in which the devil appears and takes Felix down to hell, where the cat is chased by Satan and his minions. Although the cartoon is described in detail online, Felix Fans the Flames is unfortunately now lost, like many other Felix the Cat cartoons from the same period, and here's hoping it is one day found and restored. The 1926 Mutt and Jeff cartoon entitled When Hell Freezes Over featured the two titular characters coming across a mysterious cloaked figure who kidnaps the two and disappears with them underground into hell. It's not clear if this mysterious figure is a devil or the devil, but where he takes Mutt and Jeff is definitely hell, which is inhabited by a legion of devils. The first confirmed appearance of the devil in a cartoon came in 1929 in, you may have guessed it, a Disney short entitled Hell's Bells, part of Disney's Silly Symphony series. The Skeleton Dance was the first Silly Symphonies cartoon released in August 1929 and was well received by audiences, being directed by Walt Disney and animated by Ub Iwerks, who would go on to direct the third and then the fourth cartoon in the series, Hell's Bells, released on November 21st, 1929. The short is a slice of life of a normal day in hell, as we are given a tour of the underworld and its inhabitants, until eventually we enter Satan's royal chamber, where he is being entertained by a concert given by his legion of demons, to the tune of Gounod's Funeral March for a Marionette. The orchestra is a mix of traditional instruments and macabre, nonsensical ones, and various demons dance to the music. Satan rings a bell for his dinner, a jug of hot milk obtained from a demonic cow, and realizing his three-headed pet Cerberus is hungry too, picks up one of the two demons in front of him and tosses them to the hound. Satan is about to give the dog a second course, but the other demon dodges his grip and makes a run for it. This angers Satan, and to the underscore of In the Hall of the Mountain King, Satan chases the demon to the edge of a cliff where it hides on a ledge over the side, then climbs back up and kicks Satan from behind off the ledge. Satan falls, but clings to a lower ledge until the flames from the pit below reach up to grab him and pull him into the wall of flames below as the cartoon ends. The cartoon itself is pretty frivolous, and Satan appears friendly at first, but goes through a range of emotions, from jolly to angry to terrified. And Hell's Bells received mixed reviews by cinema magazines at the time, many comparing it to The Skeleton Dance released 3 months earlier, with the general consensus being that The Skeleton Dance was funnier. The cartoon entered the public domain on January 1st, 2025, and the design of the devil character in Cuphead is based on Satan from Hell's Bells. Satan made a very brief cameo in the 1933 Cubby Bear cartoon called World Flight, produced by Van Buren Studios, which gave us the devil's first speaking role in animation and probably all of film. Hey, Whopper! Before appearing in 1934 for the first time in color animation, the Willie Whopper cartoon entitled Hell's Fire, also directed by Ub Iwerks. Willie Whopper was a short-lived series of 13 cartoons produced and directed by Ub Iwerks from 1933 to 1934 following his Flip the Frog series, and was distributed by MGM Studios. Released on January 6th, Willie tells the Whopper of the story of the time he and his dog climbed to the top of the world's most dangerous volcano, whose smoke is in fact coming from the devil's pipe. Willie drops a rock into the mouth of the volcano, and the rock lands on Satan's head, which enrages him, and he drags Willie and his dog down into hell. The devil is seen here in his traditional Halloween costume look, in red skin, a goatee beard, and holding a trident. Satan is still annoyed by the rock dropped on his head earlier, but Willie's dog makes it all better, and the devil turns out to be rather welcoming to the two. What follows is an interesting scene reminiscent of Dante, as we see a procession of famous historical and fictional characters who have somehow found themselves in hell, including the personification of Prohibition, who is subject to jeers as well as beatings by Satan and his friends. Makes you wonder what Iwerks and his team thought of that particular policy. Satan's three-headed dog Cerberus makes another appearance, and all in all it seems Willie and his dog have a lot of fun hanging out with the devil in hell. And Satan made another animated appearance less than 1 month later in the Betty Boop cartoon Red Hot Mama, released on February 2nd, 1934, which saw Betty falling asleep in front of a roaring fire and dreams that the fireplace has transformed into the gates to hell itself. Betty explores the underworld, witnessing new arrivals referred to as freshmen, the underworld's very own fire department at work, and eventually Betty decides to sing the song Hell's Bells as she is surrounded by the flames of hell. At this point we meet the devil, who, like in the previous cartoons, isn't really fleshed out much more than simply being the ruler of hell, marked out as being the biggest of the devils on screen, and this time wearing a crown, and is seen enjoying a flame cone before deciding to turn up the heat, quite literally. A horde of devils become fascinated with Betty after noticing her and surround her with menacing intentions, but all they get from her is the cold shoulder. And when Satan tries his luck, she gives him an icy stare, as he, along with his legion of devils, become frozen solid before all of hell literally freezes over. Red Hot Mama is rich in detail and vividly illustrated, as we had come to expect from Fleischer Studios by that time. However, the cartoon was banned that same year both in the UK and China for its depictions of hell, which was considered blasphemous and unsuitable for public distribution. The devil would go on to make countless appearances in Western animation over the next decades. A common trope in cartoons and animation would be to feature a miniature, devilish version of a character representing the bad conscience, or anti-conscience, as the character wrestled with temptation. And another trope would be to have the devil appear to indicate how far a character had fallen underground. Satan would make multiple appearances in various Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons, even appearing as a main, recurring character in Cow and Chicken. And although Disney were the first to feature the devil in a surviving cartoon, it wouldn't be the last time, as Beelzebub made a handful of appearances later in Darkwing Duck. That's all we have time for today, but let us know in the comments what other appearances the devil made in cartoons and animation that you remember. Also, be sure to check out my other videos on horror characters in cartoons, such as Dracula, witches, and Frankenstein's monster, which you can find under the Halloween playlist. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like this video if you learned something today, and stay tuned for more cartoon history.